friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I know I sound a little rough today. Just getting over a little cold courtesy of the grandbabies. Lots of fun, but I got some homemade remedies that have been helping me quite a bit that I'll go over in a bit. But what these videos are about, if you're new, these are videos where I talk about several different topics, leading you back to some videos I may already have, just giving you updates of things that are going on, answering questions that have come in the past week or so, or just whatever I feel like talking about. So let's get to the topics of today. Let me actually talk about the cold and flu stuff going on. So I don't know what it is, just a cold. I almost never get cold, so it's really kind of weird. But I guess that's what happens when you're dealing with grandbabies almost every day and one of them gets sick. So what I've been using is, one of the things is something I cannot talk about, but I'll tell you this much. The initials for this are C and S. And I have some in a spray bottle here that I've been spraying on my throat. Just really good, because that's been the hardest part, was the sore throat and then the stuffiness. And so I've also been using it in a nebulizer like this with a little bit of Himalayan salt to help kind of dry things up there. And it's really helped. And then I also have my elderberry syrup, elderberry spice syrup to be more specific. And if you're interested, I know people have all kinds of recipes out there. Everybody's are going to be a little bit different. I have quite a bit of stuff in mine. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff in here that's also homegrown. So I'll be sharing my elderberry spice syrup recipe down below. And so that's what I've been doing to help me get better. And anyway, I feel pretty good right now. I just sound terrible. But now let's talk about the grapes. So ever since I posted that picture that I'll put right here, this is from a week or so ago, because I've been harvesting my grapes a little bit at a time, because they don't all get ripe at the same time. So I'm just getting them a little bit at a time as soon as I'm able, and start bringing them in. And I like to freeze them. So because people saw that picture, a lot of people were asking me questions about growing grapes. And honestly, I don't really do anything special other than the fact that I grow them around my deck, and they make a nice little privacy screen during the summer all the way around the deck, and I just love that. And it's just a place that I can grow them that really doesn't cause it to take up any more space, garden space, that is. And so, no, I don't do anything special. But grapes like things like coffee grounds, chicken manure. A lot of times I'll put these bedding from the chicken coop when I'm cleaning it out at the base. I throw a lot of compost down in there. But other than that, and trying to keep them somewhat pruned back so they're not overtaking my deck, I don't really do anything special. But one of the things a lot of people need to understand is that when you're first starting to grow grapes, they can take a minimum of 4 years to start putting on fruit, and up to 7. So it can take a while. It's kind of closer to having more like getting a fruit tree. So don't feel discouraged if you have 2-year-old vines and they're still not putting out fruit. Just give them time. I think we've had our grapes for a minimum of 10 years. And they were 2-year-old vines when we bought them. And so from that point, it took about 2 years before they really started putting on fruit. And I get, other than 1 year that was just one of those weird years, I get a lot of grapes every single year. In fact, I get more every year. I am sharing a lot of mine with a friend. But what I do, because here, a lot of these are the Niagara whites. That's mostly what's out there. And because of our short growing season, these just never have a chance to get really sweet. They stay pretty tart, where Niagara whites are commonly used for making grape juice, but we just don't have a long enough season for them to really get that sweetness. And if you wait until after the first frost, they'll just all start falling off of there. You got the little birds eating them all the time, poking holes in them, sucking out the juice, and then causing the grape to rot. Because they'll find those sweet ones, and I can see them. I'm looking out my window at my grapes right now. I can see little birds in there pecking at my grapes. So I try to get those ripe ones in as soon as possible. And it's kind of funny to me that even when they're fully ripe, like really ripe, soft, they're still pretty tart. They're like a sweet tart. They actually have a really great flavor, and the aroma of these is amazing. But those birds don't seem to mind the tartness of them. They'll just keep working them over. So I got to get them in as soon as possible. But Anyway, so because of the tartness, these actually do make a really good wine grape, and that's predominantly what I use them for. So I always freeze them because it makes it much easier to juice. I do all, when it comes to grapes, I do all the juicing by hand. Now, if I'm juicing my rhubarb or my apples, I do use a fruit press that I got a few years ago. I love that thing. It's really great for using for apples and rhubarb, and I'm pretty sure many other things, but the grapes I like doing by hand. It's just the way I like to do it, but freezing them really helps to break them down so that when you go to crush them, I use actually a fruit press like this that Patrick made me, and I kind of hammer them like this in the pan. And I don't cook them. I don't steam them either because I want to keep them raw. I find it just makes a much better flavor when you keep them raw. And then I press them by hand and then strain them out through some cheesecloth. And then the rest I just throw in the compost, and the chickens will eat the seeds and so on. So, and sometimes I'll use the leftover grape bits to make vinegar, but usually by the time I get to that point, I have so much vinegar that I just don't have room for any more. But anyway, that's what I do with mine, and I just wanted to share that little thing. Now, the other thing was the hot peppers. So these are my Chinese 5-color peppers. Look how pretty that is. But I'm going to be powdering these. So these are a nice hot pepper. I grow them every year. I love them. They're my favorite hot peppers to grow. In fact, they're the only ones I grow now because they do best for us, though I probably should start growing more varieties again just in case there's a bad year. Like, I didn't get as many peppers this year as I normally do, but then again, these are dehydrated, and there's still a few more out in the greenhouse, and I still have a lot of pepper that I ground up last year from my peppers, and I love it. It's a little spicier than cayenne, but has just a little bit more smoky flavor. So anyway, I love those. I love that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Right here, some rhubarb I took out of the freezer because I've been trying to make freezer space for all the grapes coming in. And anyway, so I took that out and I dehydrated it because I'm going to be powdering up. I mean, here's another jar that I did before, a smaller jar that I did earlier in the year just from the fresh rhubarb. But anyway, I'm going to be powdering it because I'm really loving the powdered rhubarb, using it in pies and so much more. It adds a nice flavor without that weird texture that rhubarb tends to have. So I've been using it in the homemade, when I did the peach peel syrup. I'm using it in pies. I'm going to be using it in the next time I make fruit crisps and anything like that. And then back here, I've got my big old jar of my gluten-free flour blend because I'm going to be making some pies tomorrow because we're going to be heading out to our friend's house and they are gluten-free. So I've got we got all these apples coming in. I still have lots of apple butter and applesauce and dehydrated apples, even though I've been putting up a lot of dehydrated apples this year, but I have a lot from previous years. So I'm trying to use up a lot of them right away and give a bunch of them away. So I'm making apple pies again, and one of them will be gluten-free, but I'm also going to be making some gluten-free ravioli, and I'll be shooting a video on that using this same blend. So if you watched the gluten-free pie crust recipe video that I have out, it's the same blend that I use for the ravioli. So I've already got it mixed up, and then when I go to use it for ravioli, for pasta, or for pies, then I just add that, I think it's xanthan gum that I have. I just add a little bit of that to help it hold together better, and it makes a really great pie crust. So I'll link to that video down below. In fact, what I'll do instead is I'll link to my full gluten-free playlist. We're not gluten-free, but I did go for a period of time when we were taking ourselves off the thyroid medication, where I was trying to introduce some more gluten-free stuff to see if that would also help our thyroids heal, maybe heal any gut issues we had. And but technically we are not gluten-free, but our friends are, so we get together with them a lot. So that's kind of caused me to really want to dig in, start creating and perfecting some different gluten-free recipes. And yes, I'll be working on a yeast bread recipe. I'm going to see if I can use this particular flour blend, and instead of using a xanthan gum, because I want to use that as little as possible, but try using like psyllium husk powder, which I do have, and see how that works. So I'll be playing around with that, and if I ever get it perfected, I'll certainly share my recipe, because I want to make them some homemade pizza at some point, and I want to be able to make it gluten-free. So that's my goal. And then another thing, you'll see I've got my This is my coffee beans. I keep them in here when I open up a bag of coffee beans, and then I grind them up in my blender, and then I fill this up. So this usually lasts me a couple weeks. So I got to do that today when I finish this video, because my jar is getting kind of low. So it's time to fill that jar back up. So that's how I do coffee. I buy organic coffee beans. I also have green ones, and I did try roasting some and really like that, but I still have a lot of pre-roasted coffee beans to work through, because I was like about 2 years worth of coffee stored up, whole coffee beans. So anyway, I grind them myself, and I just use a blender for that instead of the little coffee grinder, because I'm doing so much at a time. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to share with you is that these chocolate chips. So my last Azure Standard order, where I actually got some of my favorite gluten-free flours, the buckwheat, the brown rice, and I got some potato starch. Best prices I've seen anywhere on gluten-free flours and things like that. So I went ahead and thought, I'm going to see what they have for chocolate chips, organic chocolate chips, just to try them. And so they had these, and these are made with, they're semi-sweet, and they're made with coconut sugar. Now these are mini, they're the smaller ones, but these are pretty good. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I actually really like these. So if you're thinking of getting some good organic chocolate chips, I say give them a try. You know, I just started with a small amount because I wanted to try them first, which is usually the way I do it. And by the way, my Azure Standard link, I think it now is always in the description box down below, but I'll try to make sure that at least gets moved towards the top. And anytime you order through our Azure Standard link, if you order $100 or more, we get a $25 credit towards our next order. And boy, I tell you, all you people who take the time, you already like Azure Standard, you already order, and you've been going through our link when you put in your orders, that has really helped us out a lot. And so, especially since I don't have time to run to town, 60 miles away to the closest pickup, and I prefer to have it delivered here just because my time is so precious. But shipping can be pretty expensive when you're talking about, a couple £100 worth of stuff. So that has really helped cover that. So I'm not paying so much, and it definitely makes it worth it. And by the way, if you'd like more information on Azure Standard and comparing the cost, including the shipping, because the shipping sometimes turns people away if they don't have a drop point, but you got to look at your weights and all that and compare. I always, most of the time, find I can get things still. Even if I have to pay all the shipping, I can still get stuff for a better price per pound through Azure Standard. I just love them. I'm getting more and more stuff all the time. In fact, my last order, I just got some raw orange blossom honey, and it's really good. So here's a little clip of it right here. It's actually pretty runny. It's not the super thick that I often get, which is really nice for other things where you don't want a real thick honey. You want something that's going to easily mix well. So that's actually a really good one to use with your honey infused garlic. So anyway, one more thing I wanted to cover. I've been wanting to do this for weeks, but I keep having to skip over it because of the other topics I'm talking about. So right here, I have a little bottle of castor oil, and this is a Fever Tree bottle. I love these bottles. They're great for so many things. So I keep several bottles around the house that have my muscle rub oil, and then my skin healing oil. And then this is just plain old castor oil, and I have been using it more and more all the time. So I wanted to share this with you, that I have a recipe. I've done a couple of videos on my mascara recipe, because I make my own mascara. I've been doing it for, oh gosh, I don't even know how many years now, but since before I started my channel anyway. And always perfecting things as I go along. And so that I'll link to my last video that I did on the recipe. But one of the things I'm doing differently now with it is adding more castor oil. I started experimenting with it to see what would happen, and find I love it. I absolutely love it so much better with even more castor oil than what I put in that video. I think I had said in that, put an 1/8 teaspoon. So if that's what I said, put in a 1/4 teaspoon. If I say 1/4 teaspoon, then put in a 1/2 teaspoon. And I've been happy with the hold for the most part. I mean, it's not waterproof, but it has pretty good hold. It gives it really good flexibility. I noticed it's made a difference in my lashes. They've been, I'm not saying they're thicker, longer than ever before, but I'm at that time in my life where your hair's just thinner. That's just the way it is. Your hair, you don't have quite as much hair as you had when you were in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. So the castor oil has helped to thicken my eyelashes back up again and make them a little bit longer, and I love that. So adding that extra castor oil not only does that, but makes the mascara easier to use. It doesn't dry out, neither in the container or on my lashes so much. It doesn't mean it smears easily, which is what I was afraid it would do if I added it, but it doesn't. So I just am thrilled with this. So my mascara recipe has changed yet again, just in the fact that I'm adding at least twice the amount of castor oil, if not 4 times the amount that I was adding before. Oh, and one more thing I almost forgot that I wanted to say is that, so this last week I had a video come out on my favorite things to dehydrate. Well, I've actually added more things, because you have to realize that any of those kind of videos, it's not a this and that, they were shot as much as 6 weeks ahead of time before it published. And in that 6 weeks, I've done a lot more dehydrating, such as potatoes. And I have a video coming out on that soon on how I dehydrated the potato slices and the diced potatoes. And I'm really happy with that. So I did up like, I think 17 quart jars of potatoes. Well, one of the things I want to state about that video is some people misunderstood and they wanted to come in and ask me all these questions. Well, how do you dehydrate that? How do you dehydrate that? What temperature did I miss it? That's not what the video was about. It wasn't about teaching you how to dehydrate those things. The reason why is because I already have videos on most of those things already. And that is why I gave you the link to the dehydrating playlist, which I'll go ahead and also put down below, so that if you are wanting to learn more about dehydrating eggs, that's in there. If you want to learn more about dehydrating pumpkin, that's in there. If you want to learn more about dehydrating, whatever else, so horseradish, any of the other things I mentioned that I already have videos on, those videos are in that playlist. So just go to that playlist, find the video of interest. It should answer all your questions, such as, do you cook it first? Do you, what temperature you do use? How long do you let it run? And how do you use it? I try to cover a lot of that information in each one of the individual videos, and some of it's going to be a little bit different depending on the item. So please go check out that playlist if you want to learn more about the individual things. And you'll find any of the links I'll be putting down below, right down here, right below the video screen. You got to look for the word more. Okay, somewhere right down here. You have to actually click on that to open the description box to find all the links. I know a lot of people are still new to how YouTube works, but that's how you find people's description boxes. Click on the word more, that'll open it up, and you'll find all the links that I put in there. And yeah, so some people didn't know where to look, and I get it. We're all learning this stuff all the time, and then there's always changes being made, so it can be confusing. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week. If you have any other questions or things you'd like me to cover in next week's video, go ahead and put those in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.